name is Professor Owen McIntyre. I'm Programme Director of the LLM Environmental and Natural Resources Law Programme here at UCC. This programme has run now for around 10 years. It's a highly successful programme. We believe it's very well structured and very well rounded. We have a limited intake every year, around 25 students. And we take a mix of students, so maybe half of our intake would be people with a formal law degree, background in the study of law, and maybe as many as half don't actually have a background in studying law, but may have studied environmental studies or environmental sciences or some other area relevant to the natural environment. We hope that it would have an element of policy, regulation, governance, or some other aspect of law and legal and policy practice. For that reason, we have structured the LLM programme to be highly accessible, so that all students, regardless of background, can operate and learn at the same level. So, for example, we would encourage some of our students to take 2 undergraduate modules that we offer in environmental law, but 4 postgraduate credits. So we have ways of integrating the introductory element for those students who may need a more basic introduction to be able to study more developed parts of environmental law. We also include clinical education. We have a module, an option called our Environmental Law Clinic. And here we put together teams of students, and students are asked, those teams are asked to work on real-life projects for real-life clients. And those clients might be environmental NGOs or advocacy groups. They may be different types of actors. They may be governmental actors. And the students will undertake a real research brief to produce a report or some other action that impacts on the development and application of the law. For example, last year we had a group of students, 2 students, who submitted a complaint against an international supermarket chain for greenwashing, for making false claims about the biodegradability of some of their products. This year we have helped a major Irish environmental NGO with developing a database of cases that it's brought, environmental cases that it's brought, but also in preparing a report on airborne ammonia emissions and the protection of Natura 2000 sites. A pre-litigation report that's developed to inform case law going forward. We've also helped to bring about a change in the Irish law on the burning of smoky solid fuels. Our client in that case was the Asthma Society of Ireland. So there's clinical education as well, where you interact with clients, you have to meet with clients, understand your brief, interact with those clients and produce a report of a professional quality for those clients, and you're graded on that activity. So there's lots and lots of very important skills that are brought in there. Across the entire programme, we've tried to open up the areas as much as possible. What I mean by that is we take an international approach. So maybe half of our intake of students every year would be students from overseas, from other jurisdictions. So when we look at, we don't necessarily look at, Irish in detail, at Irish environmental licensing or liability in Irish law for environmental accidents. We look at liability as a tool, as a method. We look at licensing as a regulatory device, so that these lessons are applicable all over the world. Because really there are a limited number of tools that are used in every jurisdiction for the purposes of environmental regulation, for the purposes of environmental redress or redress of environmental harm. And so we try to make sure that students are comfortable in each of those areas, regardless of where they come from or what jurisdiction they may ever choose to work in. Now, we've also included a number of things that help students to have choice in their careers. I think maybe half, maybe less, of our students will go into the legal professions or back into the legal professions if that's where they're already based. And at least half would go into other career paths. So we, for example, include what's commonly referred to as transnational environmental law across all of our programs. Now, transnational environmental law would include informal forms of regulation, such as the labelling and certification schemes that we see for many foodstuffs, like the Marine Stewardship Council stamp that we see on fish products. How does that work? How do we check that these are being fairly awarded or denied? How can one appeal against these awards? Because these awards tend to be critically important in terms of market access for products, for services, etc. But there are many other forms of transnational environmental regulation and governance. For example, the safeguard standards applied by project lenders in terms of development finance, and many, many other forms. So we try to integrate, we try to make this as open as possible. Yes, of course, there's a great deal of formal law, domestic, comparative, EU-based and international law, but also transnational law, new modes of regulation, new modes of governance, to try and make sure that people have access to a whole wide range of careers. For example, quite a few of our students who've had a particular interest in transnational environmental governance in recent years have gone into corporate work, have gone into advocacy work with NGOs and civil society actors, or gone into consultancies where they advise corporate and state actors on how these new, modern, informal or mixed systems of governments operate and work. In terms of access, in terms of admission to the programme, we try to take quite a flexible approach here. So while we like to see people with a law degree, an undergraduate law degree, or a good law degree, or a good undergraduate degree, in another relevant area, we will also take account of experience. So we ask for a 2-1 grade in an undergraduate degree, but we will take account of work experience. We will take account of experience working in advocacy and campaigning, for example, with civil society organisations. And we'll take account of other types of activities that people have been engaged in, for example, within a corporate environment, where they've had responsibility for the waste management function of a manufacturing entity, or anything else that we think might be relevant. So we try to be as open in that regard, and I think it works in terms of giving us a very, very engaged and very interesting student body. We have students participating in the programme that have a broad range of experience across many different aspects of environmental law and governance. And that creates, as you can imagine, very interesting and very useful and very informative debate and discussion. I sometimes find I struggle to get a word in with when my students get going and sharing their experiences and their knowledge and their insights into some of the problems that we're seeking to address.